Now, the last time I was at Didcot to measure and survey the subject of our next announcement, it was distinctly warmer, distinctly drier, and a little less grey. But I think when you come to see what it is we're here to look at, I think the colour will stand out for itself, especially on a day like today. My name is Paul Isles, I'm Project Manager for Accurascale, and welcome to a very grey Didcot to unveil our next Wagon project. Our next Wagon project is the ODA. The ODA's heritage is pretty much an LNER design that dates back to 1936. And the version that we've got, the ODA, was initiated at the request of the MoD. They needed an open general wagon that was able to negotiate the tighter curves of their depots at the time in the 80s, and would be an accompaniment to the VEAs. Obviously it's air braked and it's all part of that 75-mile-an-hour speedlink traffic. And it's an interesting way to start a project off. As I say, normally we'd start at the beginning and then work our way forward. But on this occasion, with the ODA never having been produced and with the number of liveries that are available for it, I thought it was a nice way to start at the end of the life, and then we can work our way back to the beginning with further runs that explore the LNER pipe wagons and the other things such as the Conflat B. Converted from Diagram 462 SOV vehicles, 50 ODAs were converted at Shildon Works in 1983. The conversion added the FAT 19 suspension, converted it to air brake, and added the roller bearings as well. And it provided the MoD with the perfect accompaniment to the VEAs. A lot of the traffic at that time was palletised and moved, and so while ammunition and the like would have been moved in the VAAs, the ODAs allowed for bigger, bulkier equipment to be added. And you often see in photos of the trains and the traffic at the time that there'll be a dozen or so VEAs and then 3-4 ODAs mixed in with them. As a wagon type, it's really useful, and when they had their time with the Ministry of Defence, they were moved on to the S&T department, and so did their work for BR in the departmental. Unfortunately, the one that we've got here at Didcot is the only one remaining. This was rescued from sidings at Stafford. And as you can see, it does brighten up Didcot somewhat. So if we take a tour around the wagon, the main thing that separates this from the SOV is the fact that we've got the FAT 19 suspension gear and we've got air braking. Now the adjustment for the suspension is sighted here, And then we've got the changeover lever for it there, just on the right-hand side of the V-hanger. You've got this UIC suspension, the roller bearings, and then you come along and we've got the various items of air brake equipment that we've got going on here. All of this is replicated on the model. One of the things that defines this particular lot, 3335, is the short handbrake levers. So out of the 2,000 odd SOVs that were produced, there were various lots. What defines this on the SOV, which we've also modelled, was the 8-clasp brake system, which you can see here. But the short handbrake was a defining feature, as were the oleo buffers, which we fitted. As we come round, you'll see that we've got the 5-plank system, and each side drops down independently, which makes it easy for loading. Now on the model, as well as all the gubbins that goes underneath here, we've represented the wagon sides with the droppers. We've got the central bar, we've got this side as well, which comes down, and we've got full detailing on the inside as well, which has to be seen to be believed, really. It's a lovely piece of tooling. You've got the canopy tie downs, which are on the model as well. And as we come round here, you've got various metal parts, including the door bangers that we've got here. Moving around to the end, we've got the representation here of the oleo buffers, which are a nice piece of tooling. Of course, we've got sprung buffers on the model. We have lamp brackets, which are separately fitted, the air brakes here, and of course the piping that runs through, along with the axle guards, they're all separate parts as well. To say, the internal detailing is very nice, and it's a really nice piece of tooling by the factory. Of course, we're not just doing the ODA, that would be a waste of tooling, so we are doing the 462 SOV wagons as well from this particular lot. And that adds another set of liveries to the mix. So it means we've ended up with a really nice, varied run of vehicles in this first run. So that's the real thing. Let's get out the rain. We'll go indoors into the office, and then we can take you through the models and run you through the liveries and the variants that are available to us. So here we are with the models in front of us, and the first thing you're probably going to notice is that we've got livery samples. So this pushes the announcement a little bit further down the manufacturing scale. So what I thought I'd do was we'll have a look through, and we've got these arranged in reasonable chronological order for the ODAs. And these are a representative livery sample. Obviously, when we produce livery samples, we're not getting every wagon in every triple pack produced. So what we have here are 5 examples from the range. First up, we've got rail freight red and grey, probably the most recognisable livery that the ODAs carried, and the original one under the MoD. Now these, with their reduced wheelbase, the MoD were able to use these in their armaments depots and such like, for carrying palletised loads mainly, although other loads were put on there. They were such useful wagons, being air braked, that there was subsequent use. And coming out of MoD service, there was a brief moment where a one-off rail freight livery was produced, and this is an example of we're producing single packs. So that's where something like this comes in, whereas the others, being rake wagons, we're selling them in triple packs. So from the MoD, the baton passed to S&T and SatLink, where the more recognisable sort of warm red and yellow livery comes in. Moving on from there, we come to EWS ownership, which we've represented here. And then following on from that, as these wagons were getting towards end of life, we come towards the stage where we've got extremely faded paintwork, and we've tried to replicate that this time round. Now, this is not a full-on weathering, it's more a pre-weathering. It's trying to portray these wagons as they appeared in service at the end of their lives. And this is where you get the faded yellows and reds as they go to sort of fade towards the pink side of the spectrum, and it makes them really colourful. And that gives you a representative timeline for the ODAs in service. Now, as this, there were very few changes. In actual fact, the only real changes you get to them amongst the whole 50 wagons is some had axle bracing, some didn't. So you fairly much got a constant line without any changes. But that changes as we go back in time and then look at what preceded the ODAs, what they were actually converted from. And that's where we take it back to the 12-ton pipe wagons. So stepping back in time, we're coming back to the original wagons that the ODAs were converted from. Now, these are class braked with 8 shoes across the 2 axles. Plain BR bauxite brown. This is the bog standard. It's how they existed, and again, perfect for rate wagons. We then come through, we've got departmental grey. Now, there were some in olive as well, but again, for one-offs, the departmental grey works quite nicely. And likewise with the ODAs going into SatLink service, we've also got vacuumed braked vehicles going to SatLink, and we've got one from the Midland Division and one from the Western Division, and these are all mixed in together. And that gives you the original, if you like, vacuum brake stock that the ODAs were then converted from. So taking a look at the models, bodies between the ODA and the SOVs are fairly similar. In actual fact, they're more than fairly similar. They are similar. We've got a nice amount of plank detail, rivet detail, and the internal structure of the wagons here. Separate lamp brackets applied, as well as the hinges on the side of the wagon. What are missing, though, are the cleats, the tie-down cleats. And these are supplied in the accessory bag. The main reason being because they're fine detail and they're susceptible to damage in transit. So they've been supplied for you as the user to fit yourself. Now, there are points for you to glue those into, so that's entirely down to you. Turning it over and looking at the underside, and this is where the main difference comes between the 2 wagon types. Now, you can see with the SOV, you've got your standard 4 clasps per axle, your vacuum cylinder, and if you like, a traditional braking setup. And all of this detail gives it a character that we hope you appreciate. Now, they are quite weighty, and you'll see if you've been at a show and been able to pick these up that there's a nice weight. And obviously, with the axle set into brass bearings, it makes these nice and free running. So one final detail that I wanted to point out is that we have calls now and again from P4 modelers to make models more accessible. And like with the MDVs rather, that we did before, we've included separate P4 gauged brake systems. Now, the old brake clasps can be removed, and their new P4 ones can go in place, and there is fitting points specifically for these to be added. So hopefully for those of you that model in P4, that will make life a little easier for you. So, am I happy with the project as it's progressing? Yes, very much so. It's very nice to get to this stage and not have multiple issues to report back to the factory. Really pleased with the weight, with the running, with the detail, and it's amazing how such a simple wagon can be so well represented. And a lot of that is down to the help we received, not just from the likes of Didcot, where we were able to survey the ODA, or the Kent and East Sussex, where I was able to survey the pipe fit, but also from the help from people like Paul Bartlett with his photographic library. And it's because of that resource that liveries such as this can be reproduced. So for full details, if you check down below in the comments section, that will give you the necessary links to go ahead and pre-order. So that's all from me. There's no walking off and teasing you about the next project here, but thank you for listening to us, and look forward to seeing you soon with another announcement.